Welcome to today's McMaster University Continuing Education Entrepreneurship Series. Part 2, Stories from Real Life Entrepreneurs. My name is Jennifer Rutkowski, and I will be co-hosting today's session on behalf of McMaster Continuing Education. Today, I am joined by our facilitator and co-host, Fraser, and our panel of entrepreneurs, Lorraine, Jim Edmonds, and Nicole Kalsbeek. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Grant Fraser, a successful entrepreneur and business owner with over 25 years experience starting and selling numerous businesses. He began his career in the financial services sector, working for both the Bank of Montreal and Royal Bank of Canada as a small business account manager. He is the founder of the Golf Management Institute of Canada, where he continues to serve as the organization's president. In addition to managing his business interests, Fraser serves as an entrepreneur in residence at the Ivy School of Business at Western University and teaches entrepreneurship at McMaster University. He is the host of numerous live seminars and podcasts for entrepreneurs, including the top 10 things every entrepreneur needs to know and thinking of starting your own business. Let's get started. At this time, Grant, I'd like to hand things over to you.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you to our panelists for being here, and thank you to all of our attendees today for taking the time to meet with us. And I encourage all of you to ask any questions you have by using the chat box that you'll see on the left part of your screen. So before we get started, I wanted to introduce our panelists to you. So I'll begin by introducing Lorraine Carter. Lorraine Carter is the director of McMaster University Continuing Education, MCE. MCE is the Continuing Education Center for the university. Its focus is continuing education and professional development opportunities that are aligned with the career needs of over 5,000 adult learners and a rapidly changing workforce. With a wonderful staff of 40 and more than 100 part-time instructors, Lorraine brings evidence-based decision-making, a spirit of innovation, and responsiveness to her work on behalf of McMaster Continuing Education. Thank you, Lorraine, for being here today. Nicole Kalsbeek. Nicole Kalsbeek is an aspiring entrepreneur, a graduate of Sheridan College's business program, and a chartered professional accountant. For the past 10 years, she has led a finance department in her role of plant controller at an automotive parts manufacturer in Burlington, Ontario. Also calling Burlington her home, Nicole lives with her husband and 2 active sons. Similar to many busy working professionals in today's fast-paced life, Nicole encounters the multiple demands between work and home while trying to complete her daily tasks. While not having thought of herself as an entrepreneur before, she has gained a new interest in finding a business opportunity that would assist people within the community to achieve more of a work-life balance. Nicole is a recent graduate of McMaster University's Entrepreneurship Certificate Program. Welcome, Nicole. And Jim Edmonds. Jim Edmonds has been an entrepreneur and business owner for over 20 years. After spending many years in the corporate world, he and his wife decided to take advantage of an offer that literally came knocking on their door. As someone who has always loved landscaping and working outdoors, Jim turned his passion into a career when he acquired his first The Gardener franchise in 2004. In 2019, Jim became the company's largest franchisee after purchasing 2 additional The Gardener franchises in Stony Creek, Grimsby, and Hamilton, and the franchise territory that includes Carlisle, Flamborough, Campbellville, and Kilbride. Today, Jim's business employs 25 to 30 full and part-time staff, as well as a network of subcontractor partners that help to provide a variety of landscaping and snow removal services to more than 100 residential and commercial clients throughout southwestern Ontario. Thank you, Jim. Welcome. So we've got a great panel of entrepreneurs. Jim, let me begin with you. In your bio, when I read your bio, something certainly stood out when you mentioned that an offer literally came knocking on your door. Were you in the right place at the right time? How did that all happen?
Yeah, so it literally did come knocking on my door. It was actually a neighbor of mine who our houses back onto each other, and we were out in the wintertime. We were building an ice rink and we were watering, trying to get this ice rink going, which never ended up happening, by the way, but it was a good opportunity to get out and chat with neighbors. And he had started this franchise. I guess he was in probably his second year, and he was kind of struggling, and he had some other issues going on. I was in the corporate world, working in a job that didn't really make me overly happy. It was high stress, long hours, working downtown Toronto, commuting every day. As we know, that's not usually a lot of fun. So yeah, I just kind of jokingly said to him, if you're ever looking for a partner, let me know. And literally within 2 weeks, he came knocking on my door and said, I'm thinking about getting out of the business. Are you interested in taking it over? And within 2 weeks, I talked with my wife. I quit my job, full benefits, full everything. Talked to banks, talked to lawyers. The paperwork was done. And within 2 weeks, it was pretty much a done deal.
And obviously, so very successful now in what you're doing. It's been quite a journey, but obviously no regrets.
No regrets. I mean, it's, like every business, it's got its challenges, and, we've had some tough years, just like everybody has, but, where we are now in life and in business, I think we're happy with the results that we're enjoying now. And we've got a successful business that we're happy with, but again, didn't happen overnight. And it definitely was not an easy journey, but we're here.
Mm-hmm. And Nicole, you're in a different stage than Jim, but the similarity is that you're a professional accountant.
Right.
You are a controller at a manufacturing company here in Burlington, and you've got. I know that you have. You're thinking of an idea. You've identified a problem that you're looking to solve. So tell us where you are in your journey.
Well, just leaning back to decisions where I am currently. I mean, yes, I am working as an accountant or a plant controller at a local company in Burlington. I can kind of relate to Jim's story about working the long hours and having, the stresses of having that kind of role in that kind of company, and just having, not sure about where you want to go, where you want to be. So currently, when my kids were younger, I was unsure about what I wanted to do, having a little bit of an early midlife crisis, and just wanted to explore what I could do to be available to them more. And I felt I was missing out, and I felt like I wasn't being fulfilled in what I was doing as an accountant. I still have those days. Some days it tosses and turns, but yeah, so I was trying to think of ideas that I could have to make myself feeling more fulfilled. So what I've done is I've looked at my experience, having, not having the time to get the things that I want to get done during the day and the free time. And I've looked at that thinking there must be other people in the same boat as me. So what could I do to help them make their lives easier? They're probably going through the same thing, being pulled in every direction. So I've come up with a small business idea. It's not something that is never been heard of before, but it's something that I would like to investigate for myself. And it's basically a concierge company that would be running errands for other people to help, professionals, parents, seniors get the things done that they need to get done, or that they're feeling stretched thin on, and to help provide that service to them, be a person that would be the primary contact to help them get everything that they need to get done so they can have their free time with their family and their loved ones.
Mm-hmm. Your situation is not all that uncommon, in that
No.
you have family commitments, you have a job, So it's not like you can just pick up and say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to go start my business. There's a
Right.
lot to it, isn't there?
There's quite a bit. I mean, there's also the, just wanting to look at the future. I mean, my stage in life, my kids are older now, so they don't need me as much as they used to when I was first thinking about this opportunity. But they don't need me as much, but it's something that I can recognize that there is a need out there for. And then just with my current work environment, is just, trying to give that all up at my stage in life. Do I really want to start something new? Do I want to give up the paid vacations and all those benefits that I'm so used to having in my regular work life right now? So there's obviously positives and negatives to each situation when you're working for a company versus working for yourself.
Mhm.
So that's just a trade-off right now, and just looking at exploring those options.
Mhm. It's not an easy decision. I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly. It's very difficult.
And Lorraine, you are an entrepreneur working in a corporate academic environment. Tell us about what you do at McMaster and McMaster Center for Continuing Education.
Thanks very much, Grant, for the question and for the opportunity to connect with people this afternoon. Not everybody will know this, but the continuing education unit at McMaster is a standalone business. We are absolutely part of the McMaster University family. We utilize the name, the brand, the systems, and other pieces of the McMaster University organization. But in terms of how we function, it's quite a bit different. If, for instance, somebody belongs to the faculty of the humanities or social sciences, those faculties receive monies from the ministry, from government to run programs. We don't receive a penny. So therefore, we have to function as a business. And the business is around developing and delivering good programs that have a professional development, continuing education focus for adult learners. So we have programs in human resources management, accounting, and business. We have a cluster of health-related programs. Of late, we've developed some programs in the emerging technology and data sector. A fair bit of work in marketing and digital marketing and communications. But all of that, and some of it is academic programming, but in other cases, it's good old-fashioned professional development. The reality is that somebody that doesn't come from a business background went into this area later in her career and have had to do a fair bit of learning, but it's incredibly interesting, very exciting. Like Jim, the position existed. You had a neighbor friend that said, here's a franchise. So this is not a franchise, but the position of the unit existed. And I went into it. But at that particular point, it was, okay, Lorraine, what are you going to do with it? So it's been a tremendous challenge, but also profoundly interesting over the last 5.5, 6 years.
You and your team have to be very forward thinking, I would think, looking at what the market is calling for and how the market has changed, because that's what's going to drive new program development. Is that a fair comment?
That's 100% right, Grant. We do have to watch what are the market trends, the employment trends. As you can imagine, with COVID, the groups of people who are most affected, and how can we help? Yes, of course, we need to cover our bills, but how can we also respond to the socioeconomic difficulties that Canada and elsewhere are living right now? So yes, we do take a good deal of care in terms of researching ideas. Occasionally you make a mistake and a program doesn't go as you think it will. But I think the more homework you do, the better insurance you have that it's likely going to catch some traction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jim, you said that you employ 25 to 30 both full and part-time staff, and I think most entrepreneurs would agree that the HR part of the business is often the most difficult. What's it like running a team of 25 to 30 individuals?
I would say it's by far the most challenging part of running our business, and I can only speak to our industry. I know I have a lot of colleagues and friends in this industry, and we all feel the same struggles. And then you throw COVID into the mix too, and it's just past couple of years have been challenging, like we've never seen before. So the reality is you have to adapt. You have to find ways to get work done. And the challenge when we were in our early stage of the business, you were hoping the phone would ring and you were just praying for business, and you had the ability to get it done. And now it almost is the opposite. We've got almost too much business. I don't want to say too much, but more business than we have employees. And that's a challenge. Is we have to set realistic expectations for our clients as well, as far as timing goes, and not be over promising and under delivering. But at the same time, we're constantly trying to keep the funnel full of potential employees, and you kind of always want to be advertising. I'm assuming in most businesses is probably the same. If you it's sometimes people come to you in the most unlikely times, but you have to be willing. If you find someone that is like a Gretzky, you have to be willing to to accommodate that person if it's going to improve your business. So yeah, it's definitely the most challenging by far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if I were to ask some of your staff, what type of a manager is Jim Edmonds? How would you describe yourself as a manager and leader of your business?
You put me on the spot, Grant. I mean, I would say, I try to be as fair as possible, because I follow the belief that I would never ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And in this industry, I have done most, like, everything that we do. So I'm comfortable when I can talk to somebody, and if there's a way to improve doing what they're doing, it's because I know from experience. It's not because I read it in a book somewhere. So I think people can appreciate the fact that this didn't happen by accident. This business was grown by hard work, and by myself and my wife, and good people along the way. So I would think that the one thing I will say is I am very fair, almost to a fault sometimes, and I maybe try to hang on to somebody, and even though it's probably not the right fit, but I think I've learned over the years that sometimes it's just better for both parties just to make that decision. If it's not the right fit, then I think it's just better for both to make that decision and move on.
Interesting point you make about willing to do whatever it takes. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, there isn't a job that you wouldn't do yourself, which leads me to a question about common characteristics that most entrepreneurs have. Nicole, if I were to ask you that question, what do you think some of the core characteristics or most common characteristics an entrepreneur would possess?
I would probably say a good work ethic, someone who's willing to work hard, a passion for what they're doing, a drive and the ability to look long term at the goal. Do not, starting a business isn't something that you want to think about if it's just going to be a year or two. You want to understand that if this is something that you're really passionate about, you want to make a go of it, and you want to have it something that's going to be, around for a long period of time. So those three key qualities, and just the ability to take risks, and knowing that you're going to put your all into this business. So.
And Lorraine, you've got a staff of 40, you've got over 100 part-time instructors. How do you coordinate everything? How would you describe your leadership, management, entrepreneurship style?
So Grant, that's a terrific question. I think when it is a medium to larger size enterprise, I think it is critical that you, to the best of ability, you surround yourself with great people. And I've been very fortunate that way. The group we call the leadership team in continuing education really is an exceptional group. Jim, I would put up my hand and say I would try to do some of the things that each of them do. And it would not be for lack of, significant effort, but I might not be able to do all of them. So as things have grown, we have really, I think, made some good decisions in terms of the team that is necessary. In terms of the quote unquote leadership style, we've heard here about hard work, no question. A word that I like is tenacity, which might also mean stubborn, but not stubborn to the stupid. Stubborn in terms of staying on the goal, if you will. We've just gone through a large technical implementation project, and I'm sure people wanted to throw in the towel at different points. But it's the bigger picture, and it's how do I get to there. But I also think that, we've talked a little bit about, but maybe not quite as much. I think the people focus is really important as well. The HR piece is massive in any of these roles. But if people do understand that you are fair-minded and approachable, that those will go a long way in terms of an employee wanting to work hard and grow with the organization. But I totally agree with Jim. There are times when the fit doesn't work for either side. My key points would be, good team, hard work and tenacity, and then that as much as it can be maintained as things grow, focus on the people that work with you.
This is a question for all three of you. So along the way throughout your career and along the way in your entrepreneurial journey, have you ever encountered a friend or a family member saying to you, what, that's just not going to work, and you heard them but not necessarily listened to them and said, what, I think it will work, and damn it, I'm moving ahead. Jim, I'll ask you that question. I'm sure people have wondered or questioned maybe a decision that you've made, but you knew in your heart of hearts that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, like my wife is my business partner. So the two of us have had some heated discussions over some decisions over the years on different directions that, we could potentially go, or people that we could hire, or, the expansion. Like we started off as basically it was me and one truck. And now, since my bio that I gave to you, we've actually taken over another franchise territory as well. So now we're doing Hamilton and Castor as well too. So, decisions like that don't come lightly, and there's obviously some stress and some conversation, and is it the right time? And, there's a lot of times there's a need to, to get some capital back into the business and to make those decisions. So there is definitely, some times where, and we're kind of good that way. We bounce it off each other, and maybe there's the right idea at the wrong time, or, just maybe we need to rethink things. I tend to be the idea guy, and it drives people in my office crazy because I'm just like spouting off ideas and everyone's just like writing stuff down, and like, it's hard to keep track of, but that's what keeps this business going. And that's what the fresh ideas come out. And I see something, and I'm always kind of learning and picking little bits from other companies or other industries and wondering how I can implement that to make us more successful. So sometimes there's a good balance if you have somebody that can, maybe put you in check once in a while and say, okay, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but maybe now's not the time, or maybe let's look at that down the road and plan for next year, or whatever the case may be. So I guess that would be, and that's where we balance each other quite well.
I've heard some entrepreneurs say, I have a little voice, or I get this gut feeling, and that's what drives me. Do you have a little voice, or do you have that feeling in your gut that that this is the right thing to do? Does that happen often with you?
Yeah, For sure. I have many voices in my head, so that's a whole other story. But but no, I'm constantly I want to evolve. I want to learn. I want to grow, and I think without that we wouldn't be where we are right now. So yeah, sometimes there's some decisions maybe or some choices that are maybe not the right at that time, but again, I think any business owner, I think that would go back to one of the traits is you have to have somebody that has the ability that isn't afraid to take a chance and try something, that's not going to be detrimental to your business or your family life or whatever. But I think if you're willing to take those chances, that's how people get successful is willing to try things and hopefully they're for the better, and you do your research and you make sure that you're capable of doing it. But I would say that's how we got to where we are. So.
Mhm. And Lorraine, do you have that little voice? Do you sort of have that sixth sense that you just know a new program is going to work here at McMaster? Is that something that would be true of you as well?
I think in general, Grant, I try to read a fair bit. And as you might imagine, with all the technology that we have that brings listservs and emails with way too much information, et cetera, it's hard to stay on top of it all. But I try very hard to know what's going on in terms of other continuing education units. And likewise, we've talked about the market trends. So periodically, it's like, you know what, this is going to fly. And others may or may not agree. And I would say that in general, my sense is right. But you also have to learn to take the odd, I guess that didn't go so well. I thought it was going to be different than it has been. One slightly different anecdote that I'll tell you about that I'm actually proud to share. I do think that something like community is extremely important when you think about a university and when you think about continuing education. And I have, and Jennifer, who you met at the beginning, Jennifer knows this, I have worked very hard to make sure that we still remain grounded in the needs of the Hamilton community, and that we occasionally, for instance, offer programs or workshops that are not going to cost a penny. But we think it's important for us to be an engaged community member. Not everybody sees that because this is a business. And I've had to just kind of ignore the noise. But I fervently believe it is right. And I think we are now seeing some really positive outcomes out of that. So it was like, okay, the noise from the naysayers is okay. I respect that. I get it. But this is something that is really important to who we are within the Hamilton and regional area. So
in addition to that sixth sense or that gut feeling, you can confirm those suspicions or thoughts with some research and being prepared.
Exactly. You've got it, Grant, for sure. A wee example of it, clearly we're in a pandemic. We all know that. At a particular point with other colleagues, I said, here's something we can do to be quote unquote part of a much bigger and a much more complicated solution. And it was to develop a short online course that would cost nothing for people. The focus of it was infection prevention and control for people who are caregivers, for people who are family members. Jennifer will tell you, because she does the enrollments every week, we're just under 1,000 people having gone through this course. And I know there were tons of folks saying, what are you doing that for, Lorraine? Well, to me, the evidence is, hey, we need to be an engaged community member in a very complex time here. And here's something that we can do. But I'm sure there was a lot of naysaying around me, and it was like, okay, we're going to take this decision.
Yeah, and I think any entrepreneur would agree that things like you mentioned, being a little bit stubborn, persevering, just sticking to your guns, and look what's happened. So, Nicole, you mentioned, I mean, you have an idea, and my question to you is that idea must keep resurfacing or continuing. It continues to pop up in your head. Otherwise, you likely wouldn't have enrolled in McMaster's entrepreneurship program and be here with us today. So tell us about where you're at, and do you agree with me when I say that there's a gut feel, or there's that little voice that's always there?
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartely. I sit at my desk at work every day and I wonder, when is it going to be my time to do this? I know that like this idea of a concierge company, I know that it's not something that's new. I know that there are other companies out there that do the same thing. And it just nags at me all the time that the idea is a good idea. I know that when we talked about family support and people backing you, it's just a matter of getting the timing right for me to get out there and take the next step. But yeah, I just in my next steps, I can see that from people, like I'm on social media, I can see the people are asking for help. People constantly saying, where would I find this? Well, how can I get this? I need help. I can't get out of my house. And I can see all these requests, and I just want to leap out through and say, I'll do this. But it's just right now, it's not the perfect time for me. I mean, we have right now with the pandemic, I'm also taking into consideration that while people need help, it's also, you have the lockdowns, and then they're lifted, and then they're locked down again, and then they're lifted again. So it's trying to really get that balance on what you can do and what you can offer a potential client. So right now I'm still exploring. The McMaster program really helped me identify whether or not that this was a good idea, and yeah, just whether or not it's something that I can progress with, and I believe that I could. So it's really helped me learn a lot of skills that I believe that I could take with me for something like this, the business venture.
Mm-hmm. There's an interesting question about the timing of starting a business, and
Yeah.
I can remember an entrepreneur answering that question in a seminar that I attended, and he said, "Well, whenever you're ready," but that was pre-COVID. Things are a lot different now. Jim, with COVID, how have you had to change the way you operate your business?
Yeah, it's amazing how talking about the right time and again, me being the idea guy, and we've talked about some of the businesses in years past that would appear to be bulletproof. We talked about starting up a kids play adventure place like Little Monkeys, kind of like one of those places, like license to print money, have coffee for the parents, and kids go and tire themselves out, birthday parties, like it's a it's impossible to go wrong, right? And then COVID comes, and nobody saw that freight train coming, and unfortunately businesses that were perceived to be like they could never go wrong, they were printing money, I mean, all of a sudden now their doors are shut, and restaurants are struggling, and even restaurants that thought they would never do curbside pickup or delivery, now they're doing curbside and delivery, right? So I think the one thing with that COVID has taught us is you need to be adaptable. You can't be, I mean, we all have structure, we all have budgets, we all have goals, but at the end of the day, we use the analogy sometimes of it's like a trip. You're going to Disney. Well, if you're taking the I-75 and there's heavy traffic, are you just going to turn around and go home, or do you find another way to get there? So, having a goal is important, but also being adaptable and having the ability to change as you go. We've actually got a saying on the wall downstairs in the main office that if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but don't ever change the goal. So your goal has to remain your goal. But as a business owner, if you're unable to adapt for whatever reason, I mean, COVID's a prime example, but for whatever reason, like we deal with Mother Nature. I mean, look outside today, talk about adapting. Yesterday we were doing spring cleanups and cutting grass, and today we had snow blowers and snow plows out. So, you need to be able to roll with whatever it is, and you have to you have to have the foresight and the open-mindedness to you know, to be able to make those changes and to overcome whatever obstacles come your way, or unfortunately you're going to be left behind. So that is, I think that again goes to one of the traits of being an entrepreneur, is you have to have that ability to think fast and to sometimes make some tough decisions to alter the plan. But again, you know, don't ever lose sight of what that goal is for you, because that's what keeps you going.
Mhm. And Lorraine, I think no business, no industry has been affected as much as education. Who knew that we would be online learning would be what it is today? We're communicating by way of Zoom. How have you adapted? How have you changed course at McMaster, delivering all of your adult learner programs?
So my previous life experience is in Northern Ontario. And there you live with inclement weather, you live with rurality, you live with distance. And online education actually had roots in Ontario, I'm going to say as far back as 1988 to 2000. And I happened to be living and working in Sudbury at that particular time. So I probably have had, comparatively, or compared to other people in education in Ontario, a very early acquaintanceship with online education. And when I came to McMaster, which has a great big name and is a fantastic place to be, I thought, oh my goodness, am I big, you know, I'm coming from these northern roots. Am I going to be okay with this institution? But it had not done a great deal of work in terms of online education for adults. So about 4.5 years ago, together with the team, we started to move in that direction. And hence, Grant, when the pandemic struck, and a freight train is a perfect analogy, we were already there in terms of the vast majority of our programs. So it's also, I think, you know, pulling on your previous background. I've mentioned reading and thinking ahead, but I also think it is, okay, what did you learn living and working in Northern Ontario? And it was about flexibility and accessibility for the adult learner that our particular unit serves. Other changes, though, would be the distribution of staff back into their homes to do their work. For the most part, that's gone pretty well. I certainly have strong empathy for those who have younger children and maybe not the right setup at home. Those have been challenging experiences. But for the most part, again, people have dug in and said, I'm very grateful at this current time to still have a job, to see that our unit is still growing. And there is a return of adult learners to school at this present time. But therefore we need to be hopping and to be taking care of them well. So the redistribution of staff had, of course, certain wrinkles, and, you know, all of us has perhaps been at one too many Zoom calls, but it's a tool. We can use it. We can do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nicole, anything you want to add?
No. Yeah, it's been a great learning curve. Adapting is important. During the time that I'm doing a little bit more market research onto the services I'm offering, I'm going to be taking, like when I mentioned earlier about social media, being on and seeing people request what they're requesting, and people recommending companies and recommending services. I'm just making notes right now, just on all those people and those companies, so that way I can make that partnership. When I start my company, then I can have that partnership, and I have those companies that I'm aware of, and I can make those connections. And then that way I can provide that information to the customer too. If they're needing me to research something for them or make arrangements for something, then I have that as well. So it's a lot of connectability and drive there.
So you're putting you're preparing yourself, you're putting the building blocks in place. What do you think? So, and I think there are I'm sure there are others in a similar situation to you who have started and are now looking to advance their idea forward. What do you think your next step is? What's the next step you think you need to take?
I think that I need to do, besides doing that, a little bit of research. I need to invest in my time more, make more time so that I can try some things out, start small, start to get a small client base, maybe do things for them when I do have free time to try and get that small client base started. And hopefully through word of mouth, then I can progress the company and my idea. And in the meantime, yeah, just do a lot more market research. I'm also going to plan to look at companies that are existing and use those companies and see what they're doing that I could do similarly or what I could do better than them, and just have that little edge or niche in the market when I start.
So understanding the industry itself, but really even further than that, understanding who you're competing against and trying to figure out
100%.
and then finding out what your competitive advantage is.
100%.
And Jim, you're further along. I mean, you have, as you said, you started with one truck, and now it sounds like, yeah, you have multiple vehicles on the road. How did you go from that one truck operation to where you are? Can you kind of diarize your growth and some of the decisions that you made along the way?
Yeah, I think for us it was, I mean, to be honest, it was just slow growth. We just kept getting a little bit more and a little bit, each year. Again, in 18 years, a lot has changed in our industry, and equipment and efficiencies, and there's different aspects that we've had to change and grow with, and kind of have a broader vision of where we wanted to go and kind of how we're going to get there. And I think if there's any one piece of advice I would give to anybody that wants to start a business is to think about what that goal is for you. Like, is it financial freedom? Is it more time with your family? Is it taking Fridays off to go golfing? Like, everyone has different goals. And I think it's important that if, people say, well, I want to make as much money as I can. Well, that's not really a goal. That's a wish or a dream, but that's not something you can really measure. A goal it has to be measurable. So, if your goal is to be a $5 million company in 10 years, then you need to make a roadmap on how you're going to get there and what you're going to implement as far as, your game plan, your roadmap. Is there a little bit of growth every year? Are you going to do a mass purchase? Are you going to buy someone else's company? Like, you need to know those things going into it. For us, I mean, we've just recently purchased a smaller company that he's getting out of the business, and we've arranged to make a purchase of his client base. But again, that's part of my goal. I have a number, and I have a goal that I want to get to, and I have to focus on that, and kind of design the roadmap that's going to get us to where our goal is. So that's really what we've kind of looked at in the beginning. To be honest, it was just kind of keep your head down, work hard, support the family. As long as we had, 2 nickels to rub together at the end of the week. And, I've got 2 girls that were into hockey and dance and everything else. And, there's a lot of pressure to make it work. And, with that pressure, you have to have that drive. You have to be willing to sacrifice, and you're missing out on some stuff, and you're working long hours. And over the years, we've been lucky that we have grown and we've done the right things to get us to where we are now. But part of that too is also hiring the right people. Like, if you need help in areas, I don't claim to be the smartest guy on the road by any means, and I had a mentor years ago that told me that you need to hire someone to replace yourself, because if you always want to be the smartest person, you're going to be the bottleneck in your company. So you need to hire people that are smarter in, like, I'm not an accountant by any means. So we hire people. I've got, we've got staff that do that for us now. And again, looking at the big picture, you want to make sure that you are not afraid to hire someone that's smarter than you, because it's a good thing, because they bring knowledge, they bring experience. And I think that's where a lot of business owners struggle sometimes, is they're afraid of hiring someone that's smarter than them, because it's going to make them not seem the smartest anymore. So, you need to be willing to make those decisions. So
Mhm.
hope that.
An interesting point you make about you're continuing to grow during COVID. And Lorraine, you said the same thing. You're continuing to introduce new programs despite these difficult times. And I think that's what entrepreneurs do. You continue to move forward, and you continue to come up with new solutions.
Yeah, and I'd like to say with COVID, I mean, we've experienced such a growth just from the need from people. Like, people are at home now, and now they realize that, their backyard looks horrible, and they put it off for years. But now they're not spending, $10,000 to go to Disney, or they're not spending money on rep hockey or soccer or whatever. And it's not that people have more money now, it's that people are not spending it, or spending it in a different way. And a lot of it is like, we are like I say, the phones are ringing off the hook. People want us to come in and, put a new patio, pool, do whatever. It's the demand is definitely there. But during COVID, I mean, we've had to change the way we run our business as well. And we have to be very aware of social distancing. And luckily we do work outside. So it's not like we're all jammed into an office somewhere, but we do have the ability to sort of still work freely outdoors, but again, with masks and stuff like that too. And, we don't talk to homeowners generally at a close distance anyways. It might be just a friendly wave from the window, or, whatever the case may be. But so yeah, COVID has changed, but, a lot of businesses have struggled trying to get work. We're kind of the opposite. We have so much work right now. So but again, it's finding people that are willing to come out and work with us too. So we're always hiring if anybody's looking.
Well, Jim, certainly feel free if you want to. We can post your website and direct people to you if you're looking for staff. We can certainly help you, I think, with that.
Well, like I say, we're always hiring, and you need to be able to, if you can find a person that can benefit and help your company, I think you'd be silly not to try to find a spot for them. And if it helps you get to your end game, then I think you need to be willing to look at that.
Jim, if someone was interested in reaching out to you, how could they contact you?
You can do it by email. So it's info@thegardenerlandscaping.com, or our website is thegardenerlandscaping.com or .ca, either one. And yeah, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Okay, great. Lorraine, question for you. What advice would you give to someone who's out there thinking of starting their own business?
I think, Grant, some of the points that have been raised already feed into this answer. We've all talked a little bit about the people that we connect with. I think having conversations to say, you know what, this thought's not going to go away. I need to bounce it off somebody. I likewise tapping into your idea there, Nicole, of market research and what's the other party doing. Those particular activities, I think, are really, really important. Lots of conversation, and then likewise, good dedicated research in terms of what people are doing in this comparable space. Because I live that dream too, Nicole, all the time. Like, we're not the only joint in Ontario doing continuing education. We have to know what the competition offers and how they do it. So I think it's a space that you're considering, and it's a space that we're in, where there's room for lots, but you have to do it really well. So you need to know what you're talking about. So I think those would be my primary recommendations. And then the concept that things don't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes time to use a garden analogy, for things to seed and to flourish. So if people are looking for a quick fix, whether it's programs or the landscaping business or the Coursera business, it's not likely to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And over that period of time, you want to work hard, surround yourself with good people, and stay true to the goal. But if the goal also needs to be adjusted, then you need to look hard at that too. But you don't get any place without a goal. Picking up on the hockey analogy, when you come from Sudbury, there's a lot of hockey up there. Kids become good hockey players because they play a lot of it and they work hard at it. And I think that would be another, sort of key message, that you got to do something for a window of time, and with a certain determination to know whether or not it's going to be fruitful or not.
And Lorraine, is there a place, now Nicole is a graduate of the program at McMaster, are there programs, courses available at McMaster for an aspiring entrepreneur to help them move forward with an idea?
Well, definitely the entrepreneurship program is one of them, for individuals who are saying, I want a broad background in business administration. We have a certificate and a diploma program in that area. The other piece I would share is that we serve adults, and frequently these are individuals who come with A, much life experience, and B, lots of work experience. So therefore they want to be talking to folks that know something about this in real practice. So the instructors and the facilitators that we bring into programs like business admin, entrepreneurship, they have the chops. They've been doing this. They know what they're talking about. So those are the top two that come to mind, but there are a number of other programs. We do, for instance, have a program in HR, and a person might not want to do the whole thing, but maybe a single course would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly the connections with the facilitators and the instructors are really valuable.
Mm-hmm. And for our listeners, we've posted a couple of websites for you to check out should you want more information. Nicole, I have a question that has come in from one of our participants, Callie. She says, for Nicole, with wanting to start a new company in a market that already exists, how will you differentiate yourself to gain interest / customers? That's specifically for you.
Oh, that's a good question, Kelly. Thank you for that. I think that it's just a matter of, again, like I'm just gonna say what I said before, doing the research, finding that niche. For me, I would just basically, from my perspective, I am just focusing on the customer service. So I would look to see what the market would be doing and then go that little step further. For example, maybe a customer or maybe a existing service would be willing to do your grocery shopping, but maybe I would be able to come into your home, put it in your fridge while cleaning out the stuff that has gone bad, and I could do that service for you and add that as a extra incentive to be chosen for that role. Or gift wrapping. I thought of gift wrapping, and then not only just wrapping the gifts, but storing the gifts. I mean, everyone's home. Everyone was home through Christmas. All these parents were homeschooling their kids, and they couldn't go out to get the gifts for their children, or they didn't have a place to put it because, they didn't have their offices to store it or what have you. So I thought, is there a facility that I could store the gifts and wrap them, and then someone could come pick them up, or they could be dropped off at a time when it was beneficial to that person. So just kind of thinking of different strategies on ways to market my own services to be a one-up on the competition. Now they're giving some secrets away.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. We have a couple minutes. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Can I add to that as well?
Absolutely.
And to piggyback off of Nicole's comments, there is, businesses change so much nowadays, and social media has a huge role in your success or not. And I think with a network of people and friends, and like I belong to a few Facebook groups and peer groups and stuff like that. And I think I think getting involved with the community, but also getting involved in that type of thing as well, really for any business. I've truly seen some businesses that, I mean, they get recommended all the time. And it's just a matter of networking and kind of doing that. So I think over the years, like I can't believe how marketing your business has changed so much, and social media is free. That's the best part about it too, right? So if you get into a group and you get recommended and you do great service, like Nicole was saying, like you do these little extras, I mean, within like minutes, people are going to be glowing about you. And then you know, in theory, hopefully you're getting referrals. And so that also helps as well with your, you know, getting your name out there and getting that additional business as well.
Mhm.
Good point. I
Well,
agree.
we're almost out of time. In fact, we have just gone over our 1 o'clock time period here by a minute or two. But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask each of you just to provide maybe a closing thought or two for someone who is out in the audience who's either sitting on the fence or is just not quite sure what to do next. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur? And Jim, I'll start with you.
I would say honestly, the biggest thing is you have to want it. You have to be able to be willing to put in hard work. I don't think there's any business out there that just sits back and collects money. I think everybody has to put the work in. I think you need to know the sacrifices potentially that you may have to do. And again, I go back to goals. Like, set a goal for yourself. You know, what is it that you want? What is it that makes running your own business attractive? Because there's a lot of things that people don't see that, you know, add a lot of stress to your life, add a lot of, you know, financial strain in some cases. So you better be willing to put in the hard work and have a plan to get to your goal. And again, whatever that goal is different for everybody. But really know that going in, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, don't think you know everything. And you know, like I say, I'm part of peer groups, and we have people in our industry that we're all kind of scratching their head, and you realize you're not alone out there. You know, there's people that are having the same struggles, and it's really great when people, business owners and managers, are able to share their success stories and their struggles and maybe things that they've done that haven't worked and have worked, and you can learn from them. It's great when you can give back to other people and learn that way. So I guess that would be my advice.
Thank you, Jim. And Nicole, any final thoughts, advice?
Yes, I was just going to say, piggybacking on what Jim said, I think that's great advice as well. And I'm going to add to it. I was going to say, make sure you take the time to have a plan in place, whether it's, you know, again, doing your research, talk to people, because your network and people, your friends and your family, talk to them about your idea. Some of them will give you glowing reviews and say that's such a great idea, and others might be a little more critical, but you can take those critical comments as well and use those to really think about your idea and how you can make it better. You know, I had one going into my idea about pricing or something like that, and just saying, I don't know if this would really work. So, you know, but through talking about it and figuring things out, they've kind of led me to a different area of things that I could, you know, offer my clients, or just a different aspect. So I think that's good, just to talk to people, and then, and then put a business plan together, especially if you're needing, you know, financial help to start up your business. You need to talk to banks, creditors, lenders, even those people could be family. So I think that that's important, to make sure you take the time to really put your plan together and look towards that goal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nicole. And Lorraine, final thoughts?
No, I don't think I can add a heck of a lot to, you know, the ideas that have been shared here by Jim and Nicole. An observation, I'm really fortunate to have a group of peers that will openly share what has been successful for them, the why not. Again, I think whether we use the term mentor or whether we use just a fabulous colleague that will say, hey, you know what, we tried that, didn't work so well, might work for you, but surrounding yourself with some really good people that will both support and also challenge. So, and I think the rest, you know, has probably already been said.
Mhm. Well, I wanted to say thank you to all of you for your time today. What a wonderful discussion. I think we could carry on, but we won't. Jennifer, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Is there anything that you want to add or share with our attendees today?
I'd just like to say thank you, Grant, and thank you, Lorraine, Jim, and Nicole. It was a great session today.